So it's about to start the Joe Biden presidential address. Well, I'm not going to watch it. Duh. It'd probably get me angry, is one of the reasons. It would probably upset me, and I'd probably get physically ill, really, to be honest with you. It's just a bunch of propaganda. It's just a bunch of bullshit. So instead of flooding that with my brain, what the establishment wants, what the federal government wants, I decided to do a stream about maybe what the people want, what the American people want. So that's different than what the corrupt District of Columbia Swamp wants. Well, I didn't know about Joseph R. Biden until what, 10 years ago? No, I'm sorry. Uh, the about 14 years ago, 2008. Yeah, that's when I knew about him when I was younger. I was about 28 years old. Originally, his third failure at running for president, was it second or third failure at running for president? I was just a kid. I was just like 8 years old. I didn't even know about Delaware. Uh, the notion of blue states and red states. They had a notion in my time about liberal and conservative that was defined pretty accurately. I mean, pretty. That was well defined by the time in political American life. But when did I start to understand what a liberal and a conservative was? I think when I started to realize that there was liberals, okay, and what did a liberal mean? Well, I had to read political books to know what that meant, and then I had to read political books to know what conservative meant, and kind of work it out from there. Because at first I just thought, well, there's just Americans, right? It's just, oh, it's just Americans. It's the United States of America. They're all united. They're all some shit. Well, a little bit more complicated than that, isn't it? So they're all just good friends working together for the good of the United States of America. I wish it was that simple. That'd be a great world, wouldn't it? Like Americans working for Americans. What a dream that would be. But you can see that there's division on policy and agendas and ideas and religion and so forth. Traditional values versus uh, political correctness and wokeness, and there's a lot of so there is a lot of division on and there's two-party system. You know, it's like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So I had to get my brewski ready. We have the ice in the bottom. We got the beer on the top. So there we go. So we're going to explore who is Joseph R. Biden, a man that is to be president of the United States of America. Finally, at the end of his journey, got that shot. So when I was about 8 years old, and old Joseph R. Biden from Delaware, just about as much excitement as Wayne's World. Wayne's World, hey, we're going to Delaware. It came out in 1992, 30 years ago, and they're like Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. They're like, hey, we're going to Delaware. Yay, we're in Delaware. It's not that I'm not really that excited about the original 13 colonies of the United States of America. It just doesn't sound all that too exciting. Even when my stepdad's sister, they're about to visit her in Maine because she's getting on, and she's kind of semi-blind, and she could pass away real soon, so it might be her last hurrah. And so I guess it's Joe Biden's. He's going to be 82 by the end of this term, so it could be his last hurrah as well, depending on his health. And uh, so, been alive a long time, 8 decades. Damn. Most of that was spent in the 20th century, of course, or at least 60 years of it. So I don't think America needs a leader of the 20th century. I think they need a leader of the 21st century. Doesn't Joe Biden say stuff like, "Hey Jack," "Hey bub," stuff from like 1950s, but not masculine vernacular? "Hey bub." I mean, that's acceptable, like in the X-Men comic, Wolverine. "Hey bub." "Hey Jack, you better watch it, Jack, because we got F-15s." Who the fuck is this guy? Really? Talking this horse shit. It's probably like the worst president. Most likely, I think it'll probably be it'll go down as the number one worst president in all of the 246-year history of the presidency. So why did Joe Biden have to run? Why did he have to drop out in 1988 race against Bush and was it what was the other guy? Bush and was the other guy Dukakis or some shit? I remember he had some crazy name, and he was like it's kind of like tied to the KKK down in the South, and maybe from Louisiana. It's called Dukakis. What's it called? Michael Dukakis. Yeah, don't fail me with your photographic eidetic memory, please. Enlighten us. Um, Enlighten yourself at least. So it was George H.W. Herbert Walker Bush versus Michael Dukakis. And I guess Joseph R. Biden was running there for his second or third shot at the presidency, and he lost. He had to drop out because of a scandal. The scandal was literary plagiarism. So they had great presidents before, JFK, and great speech writers with Franklin Delano Roosevelt and so forth. These legendary presidents of the 20th century and before, Abraham Lincoln. And in a lot of Joe Biden's speeches, he was known to rip off or plagiarize old presidential speeches and just directly rip off the shit. And eventually, the people that were reading presidential speeches and journalists started to figure this out. And so it wasn't a massive controversy. It was just like, hey, you're fucking stealing lines from JFK. So the media, the press of the time was catching Joe Biden saying, we do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. And so he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to drop out of the race for my second or third try. And so without Obama, he wouldn't even be president. I mean, really. How did the Democrats get through in 2020? How did Joe Biden finally break through after 60 years? Well, it needed the Chinese plague to do it. So I don't think that's really bold. Uh, I don't really consider that, oh, wow, that was the will and the love of the people or anything. I think that was just, ooh, there's a crisis. Let's just bullshit our way to the top, right? using the pretext of the Chinese SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus to take power. That was your best. That was their only hope, right? Without it, it would have been Trump too, and they would have been up shit creek without a battle, like they are now, getting desperate, getting real desperate. They didn't expect Hillary Clinton to get her corrupt ass kicked in 2016. Really didn't expect that. They didn't expect real democracy, real Americans caring and voting and stuff. They didn't anticipate that. So that wasn't part of the plan. And so, wow. That really wasn't the plan, to have an American populace that actually controlled the future and the character of America. Imagine that. Now that sounds like a real democracy. What's Joe Biden's speech right now? It's like the ultra mega MAGA is the fascist Nazi tyranny, like in the Weimar Republic of the German in the 1930s. What is he going on? He's going on some rant, right? Oh yeah. So we had to do a counter rant, a counter, you know, fuck Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon. Woo! Let's go, Brandon. I mean, look at this old fart. Plagiarist bastard. Poor guy being made a puppet by his own party just so they can control him because they know he can't form a complete sentence coherently. They know that he's got Alzheimer's or early stage elderly dementia, and they're just using him. It's really sad. You know, the guy just wanted to be president. That's all he wanted, but he always did slimy things to try to become the chief, you know? Try to plagiarize or use a plague, or he always just did. He just went about it the right way. I mean, if he would have been solid, you know, straight with the American people, if he would have been wholesome and honest, maybe he would have had a better standing than this instead of this disgraceful fall that we're witnessing. That we're watching this guy just fade into history as a laughing stock. I mean, it's a pity. It really is a pity. You know, if he hadn't ripped off presidential speeches, he would have been fucking president maybe by 1980 or 1989, by 1988, 1992, something like that. 1996. He could have been president a lot earlier. He just sucked, and he's too conniving and slimy for his own fucking good. I mean, there's a point where you're slimy, man. How that could, you know, how that equation could play itself out, but it's like, man, he could have been in there quicker. He could have been honest, and that's the tragedy of Joe Biden. It's not just his son on crack. Instead of being shady and conniving, plagiaristic, false. That's the worst part about this guy. That's the tragedy of him. It's not just he's not bringing America down with him. He's going down with himself and his party. We don't have to be a part of that. That's his shit. So we can vote Trump DeSantis 2024. We can get reasonable governance back.